So we have nothing on the agenda.
I have nothing on the agenda, but I did get an email from Kevin Cowan, the Gilmore Bell guy. American State and St. John National Bank have jointly proposed to buy the note funds with very good rates. He's going to proceed with this proposal, and we plan to have, there's a resolution we have to sign. He'll have it ready hopefully May 14th with funding closing during the week of May 21st.
So both banks are going to participate.
Jointly.
And we can do that.
Good.
That's great. That's fine with me. And UMB chose not to participate. I think
I
you said
guess.
that.
I know he contacted me,
Okay.
so that's all I know about that.
Very good.
Well, was glad to hear that the clerks were going to join the KAC.
Because we have a lot of fun.
Well, they all split off a long time ago. Some of them coming back now.
Clerks are.
They all went their own way. All got angry way back then.
Well, it just didn't work out like they thought it should. All that happened before a bunch of us weren't even a part of that. So,
Yeah, I can see why they would. I was at a meeting today. And act like nobody else is going to have anything to say when a particular board was on there and it was all the commissioners, you know. And they got bad split off, the sheriffs and clerks and everybody else.
Now, the register deeds and treasurer, were they in that group as well, or are they?
they're still in that group,
Are they?
KCOA. But when the sheriffs had their own little group, they didn't join the KCOA. I think it'd be better for us. It'd be
They
better.
said that at the KCCA that 96 counties were members. Sumner County had
Members of KAC?
Mhm.
That's what they said at Dodge.
And Sumner County was not going to participate. But Barton County is going to join, and there's a few other.
We're going to join but hadn't paid.
Hadn't paid, yeah.
And we would do.
Yeah. So we'll be back here at KAC.
Well, we had a good conference, actually.
We did
The
too.
meetings were interesting. For the most part.
A lot of election changes.
Really.
We'll get them all done.
But you can have Lawrence. You can keep it.
Yeah, I like Lawrence. I like to be here.
It's just, for a little town, it's just like being in a big city. Traffic is terrible. Roads are confusing. Make no sense. And everybody just loves it there. Oh, Lawrence is such a wonderful place. It was pretty and green, I'll say that. Which doesn't help my attitude at all.
The 911 next generation is interesting because they're tying in the GIS on this, and there are some areas that particularly people who live on the borders of the county, they're overlapping, and they got it seems like it would be it's a much better system. And then of course we were for the whole day about horizontal drilling.
Yeah, that was interesting. And then we heard about water rights, and that was a little scary. Because eastern Kansas looks at western Kansas as a huge source of water. We have all the water according to them. Yeah, isn't that a different perspective? They don't have underground sources of water, it's all surface water. And so they look at our underground water supply as a reservoir for them to tap into, is essentially what it sounds like. And it's a little scary to think about. Yeah, they are going to face some water issues. The lakes are filling with silt. Last year, during the drought, we started going, oh, wait a minute, we don't have all the water we need, And of course, Wichita is just focused right on us. So we gotta quit wasting it on things like irrigation and, you know, and things like that. And save it for the car washes and the lawns.
I don't have anything else.
I don't have anything, you guys. Let's go in recess, Ron.
This is on the Grimes West unit. So I need to just clarify some things. This is on, I think this is, it's on an oil lease that they filed for an exemption because of low production. And this kind of been an issue now for a little while because
That was the McMillan.
let me look again here. Did I get the wrong one again? Demo Resources Incorporated. Let me see which one Joe wrote the letter on.
No, you're right. You're right.
We good? Thanks, Lisa. Way to confuse me there. Okay, let's, actually I have it up in the top right corner because I have quite a few pages here. This is on a low production oil well. And if we kind of go to page 22 possibly, that's on Joe's. A letter that Joe wrote. What the problem is the way the court writes the orders is confusing on, is it tax year 2000, just an example, is it a tax year or production year? And that's where the problem's coming in on this lease here. This isn't the only lease. This is the one lease that's taken it to the extent because it's actually quite a bit of money. And this is why Lisa wanted me to come in to talk to you guys, is Joe actually wrote a letter where he said he's reviewed the case and so forth and says in his opinion that they should be refunded. But I still have a problem with that because how you interpret it is we shouldn't actually deserve, they don't deserve that money back. And I've talked to the Court of Tax Appeals on how they write these orders. You guys, and you have a copy of it. We can go back to page 1 and 2. And then we're going to go, and what I did, you don't have to read the whole thing, it gets kind of boring. But the part I have highlighted is where it talks about on page 1, the applicant requests exemption beginning January 1st, 2008. Right there is part of the problem. The applicant requests exemption beginning January 1st, 2008. Is that oil production or is that taxes? Because to be exempt January 1st, 2008 for taxes, you're looking at 2007 production. Or are we talking about January 1st, 2008 production, which you're talking about then, you'd be exempt January 1st, 2009. Right. There's a confusion right off the bat. Court of Tax Bills is not going to change the way they write the orders. They don't have to, and they're not accountable. Okay? The applicant's lease contains one producing well depth. The lease produced an average of 4.14 barrels of oil per year, per day in 2008. Okay, there they specify what they're talking about. Okay? The county recommends the request for exemption from ad valorem taxation be granted January 1st, 2009. Okay, now we're on the same page. We're talking 2008 production, 2009 tax year. But then you go to the next page, and I highlight that based on the record evidence, the county's whatever there. But if you read the next part down, it is therefore ordered that the application for exemption from ad valorem taxation is granted from January 1st, 2008 and each succeeding years after. So what are they talking about again? Is it January 1st, 2008 taxes or January 1st, 2008 production? It doesn't specify.
Was this well in production and
yeah, we're going to get to that. Okay, so now do you understand kind of where the dilemma is here?
Yes.
Okay, so if we skip all the way to page 5, it begins their exemption application is page 5. Then page 6, 7, 8, 9. If you look on page 8, it's the page that I have to fill out for the production, and I specified this. Low production, yeah, they get the lease, they get the exemption, but the exemption should begin January 1st, 2009. And if you go on to page 10 is the big kicker here. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Up in the top right corner, we sent, this is the rendition we sent with the exemption application. Okay, because it's for tax year 2009. They produced 1,516 barrels. Okay, that's where you get the 4.14 barrels per day. You take that, and that's production for 2008, and everything's highlighted. And then you can even look over here, what's highlighted in Grimes West Lease qualifies by the statute, January 1st, 2008, and 25% equipment. It takes the barrels, you see the barrels right there, the 15, 16, that's 2008 production. They even took it, 2008 production, divided by the days of the year, gives you that 4.15 or 4.14, depending how you round it, barrels per day. That's what this exemption is talking about, right?
Mhm.
So what's the first year that it would be a tax exempt? 2009.
For 2008 production.
That's right. This company is trying to make us refund 2008 taxes.
But that's 2007 production.
That's right. That's why I have it highlighted.
And that's 10, 11 barrels a day.
That's right.
That's not exempt.
That's right.
Well, what's
This
the
order
problem?
is not even talking about that.
No.
So Joe, though, wrote a letter to you guys, or to Lisa, because I won't start the abatement. And that's on page 22 again. I won't start this abatement because they do not qualify for those. They do not deserve that revenue back.
Not for 2007.
And to fill you in, Daymar tried to send me 2011 taxes, and they reduced their tax payment by $4,000, saying that this is for their abatement that they're due. Well, I wouldn't accept their payment. We went round and round about it, and so I finally just had to return their check to them. So anyway.
And all those letters are in here. We've just skipped over them by dates and so forth. That way you guys can read them at your leisure, what have you.
Well, in 2007, they were not exempt.
That's right.
And that's obvious. 10 plus barrels a day.
That's right.
And you pay those taxes in 2008.
That's right. You understand that.
Well, yeah, it's,
But if you look at the order, they're telling me I have to go by the order, which the order states granted January 1st, 2008. But the order doesn't specify what tax year. Are we talking about production or?
when it says that, it means that the tax abatement starts in 2008. That's what they're saying, which is true. 2008 production is exempt.
Production, but that word's not here.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but it's still.
This is what's causing the problem, though. This isn't the only order that the way
What
they
page
write
is
it.
that on? Read the second page?
Yeah. But we felt you guys should understand that because, and I talked to Joe.
It still says the same thing, Carl. I don't interpret that any differently. It says is granted from January 1st, 2008. The tax exemption is granted from January 1st, 2008.
2008 what?
Well, what do you mean? That's when the exemption starts.
I know.
So does it mean that prior year's taxes are exempt? Doesn't say anything about prior year taxes.
But
Doesn't
the
say
problem is
anything
it
about
doesn't say-
2007 taxes. Those are 2007 taxes.
But what the problem is, it doesn't say anything. And on page 18, this is where they wrote a letter to Lisa stating what their disagreement is, because what I wrote in, there's all kinds of letters, on page 14 is the letter I responded to them all the way back in 09.
They've been fighting us for a long time about this. It's been an ongoing issue.
Well, how could they possibly claim an exemption for an oil well that makes 10 barrels a day? That's what they're trying to do.
That's right.
Right.
Well, there's no justification for that whatsoever.
It's the same thing, though, that your own county attorney agreed with them.
Did you talk to him?
And I talked to him about it, he said I have to go by the statute, not by the statute, but by the court order.
And then you're going back to this is the court order.
Yes, sir.
But that's not what it says.
It's a matter of interpretation is what it's coming down to.
And that's what they talk about on what I say, page 18, the big paragraph. They don't care how I interpret it. They feel like they have the law because it's court order. But once again, I hope the reason I'm here is I'm not going to start abatement on this. because they don't deserve it.
No, they don't do that.
And it may come
And
down to where.
The law is very clear. How can they claim an abatement on something that's contradictory to the law?
Well, and Joe told me to do the abatement. Well, I don't think statutorily I can do an abatement without commissioner's approval. Because I have to have a signature on a print order from you guys. But I don't,
What it could come down to is it could come down to you guys saying, you order me to do this abatement. And I just want to let you know, I don't want to do that.
I don't interpret that any
and
different
it's
than
what,
what you are.
and it's what they're trying to do. They didn't get through to Carl, so then they tried to make me accept a payment less that amount of money. They tried to come through me to get it done. Well, I wouldn't accept it. Now they're trying to go through Joe to get it done. They don't like the answer Carl's given them. They don't respect his position and his decision, and
Well, it's because it's over $4,000
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we pay that out, there's gonna be a lot of interest on top of that too, over the last several years.
So, there's no
This
doubt
was-
that they are qualified for the exemption from 2008 on.
2000, tax-wise, 2009 on.
The 2008.
2008 production.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Taxes
what.
paid 2009.
Because, but see, if they come in here, you guys actually use the word production and tax year. Because otherwise, what you just said made it sound like you agree with them.
2008 production, yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just don't read that any differently than what you're interpreting. So it doesn't say that they should, doesn't say they should get an exemption for 2007 production.
That's
It
right.
doesn't say that in any way, shape, or form.
That's right. And if it did, it should say something about the 10 barrels, shouldn't it? Yeah.
Right, but, and
It
they're
It
never
just
just
trying to
doesn't
see
say
it through.
that, and it doesn't
Yeah.
imply that even. I don't know how they could even interpret it that way. And they're not qualified for it. The law's pretty specific, and the production is there. I don't know how there could even be a question about this.
There's quite a few of them. Just not in this county, but it's the way it's written. And if there's a loophole, these tax reps and attorneys and so forth, they're gonna get anything they can get out of the counties that just arbitrarily say, okay, I agree, we'll give it to you.
So this board, this goes before Board of Tax Appeals or whatever?
This exemption went to the Court of Tax Appeals. that's
Okay, and
right.
whatever they say is
Is an order.
in order no matter what the law says? They can circumvent the law?
Well, they feel like they wrote the law. This is the law. They just, what they're doing is, they're not liable, they don't have to change the way they write their order.
But if an order contradicts the law, is that okay? Can they do that?
They didn't contradict the law.
By saying that 10-plus barrel a day production is exempt is contradicting the law.
But they won't state though, they're not agreeing that they said that. What they're saying is they're talking about January 1st, 2008.
I understand. So
But
they're
all
not,
they-
so they're not saying they said that, so how can somebody
No.
else say they said that?
But what they're doing is they're just, instead of black and white, if they would have put the word production or tax year, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
In every order, just not gray, it's black and white, it's not gray. Then by not doing that, it leaves a gray area. Throw this scenario the other way. Go back to page, what was it, 10 on that rendition? And this is where this is causing problems in other counties. Say that production wouldn't be so great. Say that production would have been 1,600. Now you have a problem. Now you have an issue of, and now it's even greater. Because now that year could have qualified.
Mm-hmm.
Now what year are they talking about? This one's a little easier because we talked about that. We know they don't qualify. But if it did, that gray area just got
Makes
grayer.
it harder to argue, yeah.
Yeah.
But they will not put in, they won't simplify their orders. This has been an argument with me since 2009. They won't change it because they don't have to. But this is the problem we're into with this case. Anyway, we wanted you guys to know that this could come down, and they may come in and meet with you, I don't know.
Who's they?
The company wanting their money, because, and they'll probably use this against me on Joe's letter, that your own county attorney agrees with us. So,
We need to get him in here too, I think, all of us together. I mean, if someone would get him in there, we could, and
Certainly
reason
like
why
to hear
we
his
think, and
opinion.
reason why he thinks, and I
Say
think
that.
it'd be important.
well, on the behalf of Joe, Joe's gonna go by the law and by the
I
order.
understand that, but,
And he's gonna say, you need to follow the order.
right,
But the order doesn't say that, not in my
So,
opinion.
that's how you
the way
interpret it.
you're following the order the way it says, right?
It's how I'm interpreting it,
Right.
it's how it, that's right. We have to interpret it. So, you guys can have that, I'll have an extra copy in here then. It's the same thing I gave you guys. And is that Joe's letter?
It's the same thing. It's on
Okay,
the
you have a
back.
copy of that, that's on
And
page 22.
They got a copy of the letter I wrote to Joe too.
And I put that in there. I think I have everything up to date
Everything's good.
as of right
So
now.
all the information's in your packet.
You guys have everything. And this letter's going back and forth. Most letters are going between Lisa and the company because they didn't like what I wrote. And like she said, they don't like what she's saying now, when they went to Joe,
They went
and
to
the
the
next
county
would be
attorney.
you guys, would be the commission.
Yeah, you'll probably be next.
So,
Interesting.
it is. But I would like to stick with our guns and.
So the two key words is production and tax shield.
That's right, and it would be very simply done. And it's not. And like I'm saying, this isn't the only order like this. And like I'm saying, if that production wouldn't have been 10 barrels a day, we would have a huge problem. If it would have been under the 5 barrels, it really gets confusing.
So
It
who
just
is,
blows me away that they want an exemption when they're not qualified. I mean, why are they even fighting about this?
Well, several counties at $4,000 apiece.
And I think one of the letters stated that the other counties are giving it to us.
Yes, and that was one of the things they claimed, well, other counties have given it to us.
And just because I interpret it not the way they did, it doesn't.
It's just what our friends in Barber County were talking about.
I think
They
it's
lost
Barber
that
County.
case, but it was, yeah.
I wonder if there isn't written into the statutes, a statement in the Kansas state statutes that taxes are paid in arrears. And so that would make it clear to them that what they're paying in 2008 is their 2007 taxes.
But it still goes back to the court order, how the court order is written.
Right, but then it would say that the January 1st, 2008 is the point where they start their exemption, which what they're paying in 2008 is their 2007 taxes. They don't seem to understand that you pay taxes in arrears.
Oh, they understand.
Well, they're trying to not,
They understand.
so who's on this board of tax appeals?
The three on, I'm not, because they just switched again, but there's 3 on the court of tax appeals, and then there's, I mean, that's where all the exemptions go to. They're the only entity that can exempt anything in the state of Kansas, unless it's constitutional. But everything else goes to the court of tax appeals. Even when I have an appeal on real estate, that ends up where it goes also. And they're appointed.
And
Leave it
then,
at that.
I mean, and the issues you get into too with all these refunds, it's really becoming a problem. When you have these big refunds, it hurts the tax distribution. And then I have people that I can't even, when I do the tax distribution, they're in the hole to begin with. So it's,
Well, maybe you can explain Barber County. I got really confused, but it's like this only times a thousand.
Now, one thing that we do,
yeah,
It's really bad.
the treasurer has emailed all the other treasurers asking for advice how to handle it. And
I don't know what, some counties don't do this, but we've done it for years, is when we see one that like this that's gonna file, we go ahead, and Don goes ahead and labels it pending in there. And then when we certify, that value's not brought across. And that way, when we get the order, then we don't lose that valuation.
Yeah.
That's
good.
worked for many of years.
That's-
You know, if it's denied for some reason, like say they on their production, their monthly production, we've seen this before, where they don't have monthly production, they skip a couple months, so you don't really know what's true. It may be denied, the order may be denied, then that valuation just helps, then we gain a valuation instead of taking away from it. When they bring you your valuation, you know what's there. And we try to do everything that we know that they've appealed, filed exemptions on, we put pending. And we make it exempt, so we don't have that problem. Some counties do not do that, which would cause a lot of abatements and a lot of loss of valuation. But I think it works, and I think that's the way to go. But
Did you hear the results of the M&E bill?
not yet, have you?
No, just curious. Surely they voted on it by now, aren't they?
I
done?
think it was done, they talked about it Friday. I mean, it's still one of the last ones, and now it's, I think, Senate Bill 59. It's
Oh,
converted
they passed
over.
it to,
Yeah. So it's still in the,
it's really hard to believe that there's that much of a fight. What are they finding as justification for this? For the
to
exemption?
change it.
Yeah.
I actually, you know, it started in Montgomery County with the Court of Tax Appeal order, where they actually denied some things. And so this huge company, you know, requested that they change the machinery and equipment. The way it sits right now, what's really gonna be hard is like that unit right there for air conditioning and heating and so forth. You got boilers, you got a lot of things that, is that building or is that personal property? If all your heating and cooling becomes personal property, where do you draw the line? And so you're also gonna lose valuation, it's gonna make it harder for us to appraise real estate. Plus you're losing that valuation from all the refineries and everything across the state, and it's gonna devastate it.
They're saying basically grain elevators will be exempt, just about everything will be.
You know, what stops?
Where
You
does
know,
it
the
stop?
aeration, the dryers, you know, you could look at elevators. What is 90% of it is, could be equipment.
Exactly.
Except for the elevator itself, and then you're gonna get attorneys that they're gonna appeal these large buildings, because now what is a building worth because it doesn't have air conditioning, it doesn't have plumbing.
Yeah, what's that shell worth? Not very
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Now you've just opened another can of worms for the real estate on, they're gonna appeal that.
So it's just odd that this thing's gone as far as it has and lasted as long as it has, because it's pretty obvious that it's.
And
bad.
could last for 2 years, because they're talking about holding it and doing a little more of a study and see what does happen. But it's just one of them things to where if they could just simplify it, it's not
Yeah,
that
your
big
deal
a
could
deal.
easily be
but-
fixed.
Well, they were
Well,
also
you know-
saying that big facility down there was exempt for 10 years.
10-year
And
total
that-
exemption.
Total exemption, and now they're on the tax rolls, and now they want to.
Now they're changing it for everybody. From my understanding though, there's a bigger one there that's coming off in 2 years, like it's $700 million, that they're actually behind this also to get that 700 million off of the tax roll when their 10-year exemption comes off. They don't even want, they want this issue to be done before that 700 million hits the tax roll. So it's actually a bigger picture than the two that are really pushing it, but it's just, you know, what really upsets me is the chambers behind it, the Kansas chambers behind it, and the Kansas economics behind it.
Behind the exemption.
Yes, they're pushing it. And I've talked to the local economic and the local chambers is, you know, they want to make sure that we know that there's a Kansas chamber and then there's local chambers. Those local chambers don't necessarily have to agree with the Kansas chamber, but they're linked together. Because I think it's sad that the people, the Kansas chamber's pushing for it, and your locals that pay to be in the chamber of commerce to help your business is stabbing them in the back. Because that's exactly what they're doing, because they're backing this huge machinery and equipment exemption. They're stabbing the people that are paying their dues. Because that will go on to their commercial part, and it'll go on to the residential part, and it'll go on to their taxes.
Well, that mom and pop business is gonna pay taxes, they're not gonna get an exemption.
They don't get the exemption anyway, you know, because they don't go buy all that stuff.
They're not gonna. So their taxes are gonna go up.
Because of the mill levies are gonna shoot way up through the sky. You know, I really wouldn't be surprised if this machinery and equipment goes through that, you know, where a lot of communities have almost 200 mills anyway. You know, I think we're gonna see in our lifetime 400 mills if this goes through. Because you're exempted way too much value, you know, and you just write it off. Boom, it's just done. Here you go, thank you, and we leave, and they still may leave. You know, because I think that big company's out of Houston, and according to my sources that I talk to, they're terrible taxpayers. They're terrible in other things too. They fight the cities on everything. They're fighting everybody on everything. You know what? The legislature should stand up and say, we're not giving you free stuff no more. Just go back to Houston and take your 60 jobs that you gave us. Because they're destroying it. They're destroying everything. It's not good.
Well, I know that a couple of years ago,
At least you know how I feel.
the former Secretary of Revenue, or Kansas Revenue, stated at a meeting one time that Kansas is going to have to quit giving stuff away. That it's all reverting back, you know, to the property owner, and they're giving out these 10-year exemptions, and this is when it finally comes on the tax rolls, they're depreciated, you know, enough that it's not generating that much money. That, of course, she's no longer there. But she made that statement that it's just, you're going to have to quit giving money away.
Well, I could even defend the giving them 5 or 10 year exemption and letting the depreciation come down to a moderate level so they can afford their taxes. I can even defend that, but to say they don't ever have to pay any taxes, and then to take to the next step and make everybody exempt of it, that's just crazy. You just can't keep narrowing this burden down. I don't know why that's so hard to understand, really. Unless you're just so focused on your little narrow thing that that's all you see. It really bothers me that this whole company, well, I guess it doesn't. It's just a company, and they've got attorneys, and they're just going to get every dime they can. That's just the way they look at it. It's just a game we play, right? Okay. Then I guess we'll play the game.
Okay.
Is that all right with you guys? Or do you want him to, or do you want him to give them the money? I don't think so either.
I'm just going to let you know I'm going to have a really hard time. You're going to have to bear with me if you guys tell me to do this.
I don't know.
Because I think everybody in here would like to have some money back from 2008 that we don't deserve back. I mean, I think everybody in here would.
I just paid my tax bill today. It's not a good day to ask for money back from me.
That was perfect, wasn't it?
Kingdom crying.
There was a tear. I saw it.
More than one.
I'll check back on my first one.
Give me that check back, please.
Could you put that in writing?
You'll have to go through the abatement process, Doris. Yeah.
It all starts right here.
Yeah, this is the guy.
I'm not talking to him. Where's Joe at? Maybe Joe. Maybe he'll agree with me.
That's all I had.
Well,
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, he's just a ray of sunshine, isn't he?
No, I think we're all in agreement that this isn't right.
And I'm confused why Joe just addressed the letter to me, too. Surely he knows it's got to start with
I bet he doesn't have a clue.
Carl or through you guys. I mean, because I cannot, my auditors, they check whether our orders are signed by you guys or not. I cannot do nothing without a signed order from you guys. So, and that's why we have this. This is our checks and balances in the system. So somebody can't, you know,
Right.
do something without somebody else knowing. So, anyway,
Okay.
yeah, maybe he's not aware.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
listening.
No,
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think we're back there.
Well, I think we have to, he's the educated one on all of this. I mean, he's done this for how many years? We have to trust his judgments.
Okay, thanks. Let's recess. Is there somebody out there? Anything?
Tidbits.
We're adjourned.